Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian. I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here in Western Canada. I hope that all of you are having a good start to your weekend. I hope you're staying healthy, strong, and optimistic. Hi Fuang. Hi students. Let me just check our settings here real quick. This is a subscribers chat class. Of course, everybody is welcome to watch. There you go. I've just enabled the subscribers. Yeah, it was a little bit interesting that others weren't able to join in. So now it's subscribers. So subscribers, go ahead, join in. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please do so to get notifications of regular video releases and lots of help with your upcoming IELTS exam. We are world leaders on YouTube and online, preparing students for the IELTS for the past 20 years. Welcome, Carolina. Hi, Sarah, our chat moderators. If you have questions, you can ask me or you can ask Sarah or Carolina as well. Domenico, Fuang, Chayani members, again, welcome to you. Nilesh, Tamuka, and all of our beautiful, wonderful subscribers, welcome to the class. We are looking at an IELTS reading. We will be reading about abstract art. For lots of good strategies and for reading practice, hang around in this class. For getting all of our materials and to follow with these live classes well, definitely check out our websites. Our websites are academic for academic IELTS, aehelp.com. For general IELTS, it's gieltshelp.com. Both of those websites have loads and loads of information for you to improve your English. These are the websites here. I'll just show you real quick. This is our academic IELTS website here. Just click that big red button that's right above my head there to join the premium IELTS package. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access. You click that join now button and you can use this coupon code SOUND9 for a 10% discount off of the premium IELTS package. For the general IELTS, same idea. General IELTS reading is a fair bit different from academic, but not completely. Section 3 of the general IELTS is very, very similar to the academic. So for those of you who are looking to get those high band scores, definitely stick around in this class because this academic IELTS reading passage could be quite similar to your general IELTS reading passage. Again, click that big red join now button, fill out the information there, and you're good to go. So if you have questions, you can send me an email, Adrian at aehelp.com or admin at aehelp.com. You can also get our apps, Academic IELTS Help and General IELTS Help. Those apps will connect to the web accounts as well. And Instagram for sure, yeah, we got it. IELTS_AEHelp, GIELTS Help. So lots of vocabulary and some fun reels there for you also. Okay. All right, students. So we've got reading right now, and then tomorrow we will have speaking part 2, speaking part 3 for everybody. So check that out. We always release new videos on the website on YouTube and on the websites. So this is a video for last week that we just put up. It's a great video for practicing your speaking. It's one of the reasons that it's a good idea to subscribe. All right, reading tips and strategies. Here's my first tip for you. Don't start reading until you have a good idea about the topic. That's my first tip to you today. So look carefully at the title. If you have a picture, look at the picture and think about what you're going to read, okay? So based on the title, maybe if you have a picture, sometimes you have a helpful picture, and questions too. You can look at the questions. We'll talk about that in a moment. You'll see why in just a second. So we're looking at a reading passage 3 today. Okay, the IELTS is a progressive exam. What that means is that the passages get more and more difficult as you go along in the exam. So passage 1 is the easiest, and then passage 2 is more difficult. Passage 3 is the most difficult. For general IELTS, it's kind of the same idea, but you have sections. So section 1 is the easiest, section 2 is more difficult, and then section 3 is the most difficult. It's very different. It's like the academic. Okay. So here right away, this is passage 3. This is coming from our exams, and you see CD4 track 7 here. So okay, fine. That's where you will find it in the audio materials on the website. We'll look at that a little bit later on. And then you have this title, The Aesthetic Merit of Abstract Art. What is that, right? It's like, what is that? What am I reading? And sometimes students say to me, like, even in my own language, I have no idea about this topic. It's not a surprise, not on the academic, okay? The third passage is, so when they make the exam, they want the third passage to be kind of new information for a lot of the candidates, okay? Does anybody know why that is? So here, let me ask you this question. Why does IELTS make passage 3 new information for the candidates, even if it's in their own language, even if it would be in your own language? So why does the IELTS do that? So maybe the first one, you know, passage 1, it's about volcanoes, and most of us learned about volcanoes in elementary school, so it's not new for us. Or maybe passage 2 will be about, you know, the subway, metro system, and a lot of us are familiar with that, so it's not new. But then suddenly passage 3 is something like the aesthetic merit of abstract art. What? When I did the IELTS exam, it was about pesticide use in Australia. That was passage 3. Almost as weird as this one, right? So Rakwea says, because they want to know about how we can deal with new knowledge in English. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly, Andrew. So Andrew says to see how candidates are able to cope with new information which comes up during their studies. Exactly, Andrew. That's exactly it. Okay. So IELTS is saying, hey, you want to go study university in another country in English? You have to be able to understand new information in English, not just old information. How good are you at that, right? Especially if we're going to allow you to study master's or PhD. Exactly. That's exactly it. Okay? So that's the goal, right? Because IELTS wants to make sure, because IELTS, and not IELTS, but universities. Don't forget, IELTS is from Cambridge University. So when we're talking about IELTS, a lot of people think, you know, British Council and IDP, but it's made by Cambridge. British Council and IDP just administer the test. They just give you the exam and mark it. The people who make it is a university. It's Cambridge University Press. So because IELTS, mainly universities, need to make sure that you can mostly figure out new information in English so that you can succeed in your studies abroad. Okay? That makes sense, I hope. Yeah, Sarah, our moderator, says, I was lucky with my reading parts. I was familiar with 2 of them. And that's usually it, right? You're familiar with 2, but not with 1. That's why they give you a range of topics, too, for that same reason. Sarah, very nice. Yeah. All right. So before we start reading, right, we want to understand this as much as possible and not panic. So if you panic and you start reading and you don't understand what's going on, especially if you don't, worst situation, okay, this is the worst situation. Candidate does not understand the title and starts skim reading for answers. This is just stress and confusion. And of course, they go hand in hand, right? So that's the worst case scenario. Okay, you don't want to do that. All right, so stop for a second. And figure out the title. Focus on what you know. Okay, let me show you what I mean. So most of us in this title will know the word art, right? Everybody knows art. Yes, I'm sure you know the word art. If you don't know the word art, you probably shouldn't be sitting the IELTS exam, okay? Many of you know the word merit. So many of you know the word merit, right? So merit, kind of like the benefit. Okay. Excuse me. So we know these 2 words, and that's a great start. That's a great starting point. Okay. So we know the word benefit. We know the word art. Okay. So the benefit of art. Okay. What kind of art, right? So what does this word mean? And what does this word mean? Let's try to figure those out, right? So how do we do that? Well, we can do that by looking at the picture. Okay. So we look at this picture, okay, here, this nice big blue square, and try to do something here with my annotation tool. Just give me one quick second here, students. Okay, let me see if I can fix this. Meanwhile, look at this picture and try to figure out what abstract means, okay? Strange. Anyway, we'll do it without the annotation tool. So we look at this picture and we realize that, okay, abstract means some kind of art that doesn't make a lot of sense, right? So in this case, the art that we're looking at is, let me just try this one more time. It's going to work a lot better. It's not going on. All right, whatever. Okay, we notice that art, that's abstract art, is something that doesn't make sense. So it's not like a picture of a person or a place, but it's just this kind of blue square. Okay, right. So Prima Malhotra says it's art which maybe has a hidden meaning, right? And Irgim says it's illogical art. Yeah. So unclear, right? Unclear. It's unclear art. It's not a clear form of art. We don't clearly see what it is, okay? And then aesthetic, right? So what does aesthetic mean? Okay. Well, a lot of people, especially a lot of women, will know what aesthetic means because of aesthetics, the word, right? So aesthetic means beauty. An aesthetician is a person who works in the beauty industry. Okay? So that's an aesthetician. Yeah, Dinesh says good looking. Yeah, exactly, Dinesh. So you're on the right track. It means beauty. Karina says beauty. Yeah, exactly. So now, if we're carefully looking at the picture and the title, we can figure out that the aesthetic merit of abstract art means the beautiful benefit of art that's not clear. Okay? So the beautiful benefit of art that is not clear. Okay, or irrational, not rational in some sense. Okay, sure. All right. So now we can move on. Now we can do a bit of reading. Now we can try to understand the passage. The title is extremely important. You should never skip the title. You should always read the title. After you read the title, you can look at the questions, okay? So you have the first set of questions here. This is a very typical type of question in the IELTS exam. In the computer-based, you drag and drop the answers for this. In the paper-based, you actually have to write the letter into the boxes. Okay, you'll see. So reading passage 1 has 7 paragraphs. Now read with me, students. This is reading, okay? So reading passage 1 has 7 paragraphs, A to G. Which paragraph contains the following information? Write the correct letter A to G in boxes 27 to 32 on your answer sheet. You may use any letter more than once. As soon as you see this type of question, you should be reminded that skimming and scanning will not work for this. Why not? Why? So skimming or scanning is a terrible type of strategy for this type of question. Why? NDRING, good luck on your exam tomorrow. Andrew says because the ideas are paraphrased. Yes. Raquia says because it's paraphrased partly. And more importantly, why? It's not just because it's paraphrased. That's true for basically every type of question. But even more importantly, the answers are random. So, for example, if question 27, the rejection of old art rules, is in paragraph G, that means that the candidate is basically reading or skim reading the whole passage before they may or may not find the correct answer in paragraph G. That means that question 27 will take you maybe up to 2 minutes to solve, or 3 minutes if you're skim reading. That's a horrible use of time, okay? So absolutely terrible, okay? The people who make the IELTS exams, they make it so that skim reading and scanning are not effective strategies for high band scores. They know that that's kind of a cheat or a shortcut that a lot of students are trying, so they make questions in such a way that it doesn't work. Test engineering is a science, and they create the tests so that they're valid and they're reliable, and so people can't use little tricks to try to get high scores, okay? All right, so, but all of this information is somewhere in the passage. So we have all this information somewhere in the passage. So we can read all of this, okay? So let's do it. And a good kind of practice at home is to paraphrase as you read, okay? So here, the rejection of old rules of art, refusing the guidelines of traditional art. Okay. Practicing paraphrasing at home is really, really important. What's another way to say different kinds of aesthetic value? Yeah, surrender. So you're right. That's what we're doing right now. First, we want to read all of the questions that are in the passage somewhere. And then we want to read the actual passage. And we're going to do that. So, but at home, when you're practicing, it's a really smart idea to paraphrase the question so that you can train your mind and train your brain to catch the paraphrasing in the reading, okay? So it is very important to train your brain to see paraphrasing during your IELTS exam. You can do this by paraphrasing the questions before you read the passage. Okay, and that's what we're doing right now. So the rejection of old rules of art, refusing the guidelines of traditional art. Sure. Different kinds of aesthetic value. Anahita says various kinds of beauty importance, various types of important beauty. Sure. Let me fix that, Anahita, a little bit. So various types of important beauty. Sure. Okay. Two competing arguments about the value of abstract art. So a couple of opposing perspectives regarding the worth of irrational art. Sure. Okay. Now, you notice I'm doing it quite fast. Obviously, it's because I've practiced this. This is what I teach. But you can do this too. And you don't need to do it 100%. You can do it 80%. You can do it 70%. You can even do it 60%. The goal is to paraphrase, okay? So two competing arguments about the value of abstract art, a couple of opposing perspectives regarding the worth of irrational art. Okay? All right. Ambiguity itself provides part of the aesthetic experience. Ambiguity, if you don't know the word, look it up in the dictionary. This is how you learn, right? What's another way to say ambiguity? There's a very common way to say it. Okay, Chayani, that's a good paraphrase. Caleb says ambiguity means irrelevant. No, there's a better word for that, Caleb, than irrelevant. That's right, Andrew. It's uncertainty. Yeah. Uncertainty itself alone gives a piece, a part of the perception of beauty, right? So ambiguity itself provides part of the aesthetic experience. Uncertainty alone gives a piece of the perception of beauty. Sure. Uncertainty. Learn the words. If you're picking up new words in the class, students, write it down. Get the definitions. Okay, the mysterious nature of abstract art. Let's try that one. So, the mystique of irrational art that is inherent to it. Sure. Okay. So the mystique of irrational art that is inherent to it. Aesthetic value is up to the viewer. So understanding beauty is dependent on each person. Okay, this is where you learn the phrasal verb up to you, which means depends on you, right? Up to you depends on you. Okay, learn that, know that. That's very common English. It's up to you. It depends on you. It's your decision. Raquea says, understanding beauty is dependent on each person. Very good. Surinder, I love your paraphrasing for the mysterious nature of abstract art. Surinder says, the hidden nature of beautiful art. Sure, I like it, Surinder. That works great. Okay. Yeah, and so Sarah, somebody's asking, Farron Giz is asking, what are we doing here? And Sarah says, I'm basically paraphrasing to make sure that I can understand each of the questions. So yeah, Sarah, you're absolutely right. There's two reasons that I'm doing this paraphrasing. One is to make sure that I understand each of the original questions, right? And then the other reason I'm doing this is because of what many of you said, that the passage paraphrases the questions. So I'm going to see the information in a different way. And sometimes when you're a little bit lucky, you're actually paraphrasing in a similar way as the IELTS test. Okay, so that's exactly what we're doing. Now, next questions, 33, 34, 35, and 36, multiple choice. Again, basically are almost impossible to do with just skimming and scanning. Why? Well, let me ask you this one. Why is this very difficult to do? So why is it almost impossible to skim read for the answer to these multiple choice questions? What do you think? So I really want to discourage many of you who are skim reading for answers to skim read. Raquea says, because there are so many confusing options. Yeah, absolutely. One reason is that there are so many confusing options that are all paraphrased in the passage. Yeah, absolutely. So you're not sure if it's the question that's being paraphrased or the answer that's being paraphrased. Exactly, Chen. You don't know what is actually in the in the passage. Okay. Yeah, so Prima says all options, keywords, may be in the passage in different context. Absolutely. Or another one may be that you need to understand multiple ideas from the passage to get the right answer. Okay, there's another one. Another reason is that the question might be paraphrased. Okay, and E, all of the above. So what's the correct answer here? Why is it almost impossible to skim read for the answer to multiple choice questions? A, there are so many confusing options and all are paraphrased in the passage. B, all the options, keywords may be in the passage in different contexts. C, you need to understand multiple ideas from the passage to get the right answer. D, it may be that multiple choice questions itself is being paraphrased. Or E, All of the above. I love your answers. Yeah, that was just a fun way to teach you for multiple choice questions of why not to skim read, right? So yeah, all of the above is the correct answer here. So all of the above. Okay. It's not just A, B, C, D, or not just A, B, C, it's D. It's all of the above, right? All of the above might be happening. So you don't know, right? So then the question here is, what's the right way? So what do you do? Okay. Well, here you go. Ignore the answers. Okay. So don't pay attention to the answers. Okay. So until after you read the passage, forget about the answers, okay? Just pay attention to the question and paraphrase it in your head. Make it into a statement. So what makes abstract art different from classical art? Okay, abstract art is different from traditional art because, okay? A common critique of abstract art is that it lacks. A frequent complaint about abstract art is that it does not have. Right? That's the paraphrase. Okay, so here again, I'm just paraphrasing. Ruckwea says abstract art is different from traditional art because. Exactly. Why is it important to note that abstract merit not be solely reserved for the sublime? So why is it vital to state that the concept of beauty is not only for the amazing? Sublime is pretty difficult to paraphrase, but we'll say amazing. Okay. All right. While realist works of art explicitly show their meaning, abstract works of art do what? So, while traditional art pieces clearly reflect their intention, abstract art does something. Okay? All right. So lots of paraphrasing. And I'm moving at a good speed here. If you're not 100% sure what I'm doing, don't worry. We're going to go through the answers and through the text, and it will make a lot more sense as the class evolves. So just hang in there, okay? Right now, just notice that I'm paraphrasing and I'm creating different ways to say the multiple choice or state the multiple choice questions, okay? All right, and then we have true, false, not given. True, false, not given questions, don't worry about them until you're done the passage. You can't worry about them because we don't know if they're true, false, or not given until we read the passage. It's that simple. Okay. All right. So here we have our passage, and we're going to read the passage, but instead of me reading it this time, or instead of listening to the audio on the website, I'm going to get you to read it. So I'm going to get our subscribers and our members to volunteer here, our premium course users to volunteer and to read this passage step by step. Everybody can read. I will help you with difficult words and pronunciation. All I want right now is people to just volunteer. So Carolina and Sarah, if you can just go through the steps of how to volunteer for reading. First of all, oh, look, Carolina is so fast. Thank you, Carolina. Go to aehelp.com. This website is aehelp.com. This is where we can use the chat interface, the audio. Okay, that's why you saw me put on my headphones just now, right? So we go to aehelp.com. Again, you can join the premium package by clicking the big red buttons, okay? And then when you do that, you will have a My Student account like this. And then you have your Student Partner Speaking button, okay? You go to your Student Partner Speaking, and we already have lots of people in here. So again, follow the steps that Carolina put into the chat, okay? Anahita, you absolutely do not lose time if you paraphrase every question. In the real exam, Anahita, you're doing it only in your head, not on paper, all right? Yeah, exactly, Chen. You're doing it in your head, so it doesn't take a lot of time, okay? All right. Riyadh, let's see if Riyadh is one of our premium students. Let's see if Riyadh is here. Riyadh's sending me a message. By the way, my handle in the chat will be master, so you can send me a message. Riyadh says hi. Hi, Riyadh. Are you ready to read? Riyadh, if you're there, let me know. And then, yeah, okay. Riyadh says, I would love to read. Sure. Awesome, Riyadh. Hello, Riyadh. Are you there? I can hear. It sounds like you picked up, but I don't hear your voice. Let me just double check my settings here. Yeah, I should be able to hear you, Riyadh. Can you check your settings as well, Riyadh? See if you're set up right with your microphone and your audio. It seems like you can hear me because you said yes, but I don't hear you at all. Riyadh, check your mic, okay? And I'll come back. I'll circle back to you after you've checked it with another student, okay? Let's go to Raquea. Raquea, are you ready to read? And this way I'll make sure that the issue isn't on my end. I should be able to hear Raquea. I'm pretty sure I've heard you before, Riyadh, so see if there's anything different. Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Raquea. How are you?
Hello.
Okay, so yeah, definitely it's working okay on my end. Raquea,
Hello.
you can hear me or not? I can hear you. So it's like you have the opposite
Hello.
issue of Riyadh. It's like you're having issues with your audio and not your microphone. Okay, Raquea, check your settings and I'll come back to you as well.
Hello.
Okay, just check your settings, Raquea. Check your settings. Students, check your settings. Here we go. Let's try Domenico. Domenico, are you ready? Hopefully, if the one didn't work with Riyadh, the other didn't work with Raquea, then hopefully both will work with Domenico, or neither, right? Okay, Domenico, if you're there, let me know, and we'll give it a shot if you're ready to read. Okay, here we go.
Hello?
Hi, Domenico. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh my god. What's going on?
You can't hear
Can
me.
you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, I can. Just a sec. Might be on my end.
I can't hear you.
That's okay. Let me check the settings here.
Hello?
Just a sec. Don't, yeah. Microphone. Let me see if I'm here. So microphone, settings, site can use, microphone. Here we go. Can you hear me now? Domenico? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can't hear you, sir. I can't
Can you
hear
hear me?
you.
Can you hear me now?
No, I can't. I can't.
Can you hear
I
me
can't
now?
hear you. I don't know what's
How
going
about
on.
how about now? Okay, how about now? Can you hear me now? All right. Well, I'll have to check. I think it's on my end, guys. The setting. That's what I'm guessing. So don't worry about it. Okay. Don't worry about it. It's not on your end. It's on my end. I'm gonna have to check. It's something else. It seems to be on my end, but don't worry about it. Tang, don't call me. I will figure it out. Okay, it seems to be on my end, but don't worry about it. So instead of having you read, I'm just going to read, and we're going to continue with using the chat. And then after the class, I'll check why that was going on. So if somebody wants to help me out with this after and hang out in the chat, then after the class, I'll reach out to a couple students and figure out why that's happening. Because obviously my microphone is working through YouTube, just not on the website. So I'll have to figure out what's going on there. All right, no worries. Then what we will do, everybody can hear my voice through YouTube though, right? You're all good on YouTube? A lot of strange things going on with the computer today. I'm not sure why that is. All right. Anyway, not to worry. Let's do it this way. Instead of hearing my boring old voice, yeah, everybody can hear me through YouTube. I'm not sure why you can't hear me through the website. So I'll have to troubleshoot my browser settings to see what happened there with the microphone. Okay, so here we go. Let's do it this way. Let's listen to the British reader read the audio. Okay, everybody? So on the website, you actually have audio for all of this reading. So here for this reading, the audio, as I showed you before, is CD4, track 7. Okay, so on the website, solutions, right? We go to CD4 and track 7. So everybody get ready to read with this British person, okay?
The aesthetic merit of abstract art. Abstract art is notorious for its apparent lack of artistic skill, meaning and value. While its harshest critics believe that abstract art is not art at all, many art connoisseurs feel that abstract art is an aesthetically pleasing expression of the human condition. This article will discuss both sides of the issue and present arguments for and against the aesthetic merit of abstract art. Abstract art, by definition, does not follow the rules of reality. Until the late 19th century, artists had, more or less, stuck to the notion of art as representation of reality. Artists such as Gainsborough or Rembrandt follow the rules of reality with regards to light, perspective, physics and logic. Abstract artists like Jackson Pollock rejected these supposed rules of painting. Instead, Pollock made his own rules, or rejected rules entirely. The aesthetic value of works such as Pollock's, that is to say the ability for works like his to elicit pleasure when viewed, is the point at stake in this discussion. On the one hand, some critics feel that abstract art is facile, silly and indulgent. It is, on their account, a perfect example of the kind of art snobbery that the outside world finds so distasteful. Looking at a canvas covered in blue paint, we are meant to see something, perhaps jealousy, perhaps the death of human emotion, perhaps the bleakness of the human condition, but for many people they merely see a blue rectangle. It is not mere lack of imagination, however, that gives viewers the impression that the artwork lacks aesthetic merit. Many critics who have a keen eye for good art feel that many works of abstract art lack aesthetic merit. A common argument against these artworks is that they lack skill. Artworks by Rembrandt and Gainsborough are unambiguously works of profound skill. These artists committed their lifetimes to their craft, and it shows in the virtuosity of their works. It is important to note, however, that aesthetic merit must not be solely reserved for the sublime. In comparing Rembrandt to an abstract artist such as Pollock, one must realise that there are many kinds of aesthetic merit. For example, there is the aesthetic merit in a sunset, in a beautiful sculpture, in a symphony, or even in a well-composed meal. So if aesthetic merit is represented in manifold ways, is it possible that abstract art satisfies at least one of those criteria? Many critics say yes. The value of abstract art lies, for some critics, in its mystery. Whereas realist artworks simply show and tell their meaning, The meaning of abstract works is hidden behind a veil of ambiguity. Perhaps the artist has an intended meaning, perhaps the artist does not. Additionally, the meaning for one person may be different than the meaning for another person. The key is that the painting does have meaning, but is meaning the same as aesthetic merit? Arguably not. Words have meanings, for example, but lack aesthetic merit. However, one might say for a painting or other artwork to have meaning is precisely for it to have aesthetic merit. Perhaps the real answer to the debate is that whether an object has aesthetic merit or not is up to the viewer. An object can have aesthetic merit for one person but lack it for another person. So in this sense, abstract art is neither meritorious nor the opposite. Instead, it is whatever the viewer thinks it is. On this account, if a person finds an abstract work of art aesthetically pleasing, then that artwork is aesthetically pleasing for him or her. If not, then it is not. This answer, however, will not satisfy some readers, who desire a clear answer to the debate in question. For such readers, it is important to point out that ambiguity is inherent in all art. In fact, ambiguity is part of the aesthetic experience itself. So the fact that there is no clear answer forthcoming to the aesthetic merit of abstract art is not surprising. It is the nature of art to lack crystal clarity in order to invite interpretation and meditation, which are critical parts of the very aesthetic experience in question.
All right.
This recording is copyrighted by 2Think1 Solutions Inc.
Let me just
and
stop
World
the audio there. So that's some nice fluent reading. Of course, the question is, how much did we understand? How well did we move along, not just with the words, but also with the coherence? So understanding it. When you're at home, if you're having trouble at this point, if you're thinking, well, okay, I read it, I heard it, I know a lot of these words, but I didn't really understand what was going on, then at this point, what you want to do is you want to read each paragraph again. Let me show you how. So read with me here, okay? Abstract art is notorious for its apparent lack of artistic skill, meaning, and value. While its harshest critics believe that abstract art is not art at all, many art connoisseurs feel that abstract art is an aesthetically pleasing expression of the human condition. This article will discuss both sides of the issue and present arguments for and against the aesthetic merit of abstract art. Okay, so here I ask myself, what is this article about? What is it introducing? And then I give the answer. So it tells that this essay will discuss both the positive and negative interpretation of aesthetic art. Right? Okay. So that's what this essay will discuss. All right, so then we go to paragraph B. And again, students, do this with me. We're going to do it just for a couple of the paragraphs. You can do it for all paragraphs at home, but I'm going to do it just for a couple so you can figure out how this all works, okay? Abstract art, by definition, does not follow the rules of reality. Until the late 19th century, artists had more or less stuck to the notion of art as representation of reality. Artists such as Gainsborough or Rembrandt followed the rules of reality with regards to light, perspective, physics, and logic. Abstract artists like Jackson Pollock rejected these supposed rules of painting. Instead, Pollock made his own rules, or rejected rules entirely. The aesthetic value of works such as Pollock's, that is to say, the ability for works like his to elicit pleasure when viewed, is the point at stake in this discussion. Okay, so traditional art follows rules. Abstract art does not. So is the latter art. Okay, so that's what this paragraph is about. This is a very important strategy to practice at home before your IELTS exam, where you read a paragraph and then you summarize the paragraph in a very simple short sentence. Try to keep it under 15, 16 words. Okay? All right. So keep going this way. Let's look at C. On one hand, some critics feel that abstract art is facile, silly, and indulgent. It is, on their account, a perfect example of the kind of art snobbery that the outside world finds so distasteful. Looking at a canvas covered in blue paint, we are meant to see something, perhaps jealousy, perhaps the depth of human emotion, perhaps the bleakness of the human condition. But for many people, they merely see a blue rectangle. It is not mere lack of imagination, however, that gives viewers the impression that the artwork lacks aesthetic merit. Many critics who have a keen eye for good art feel that many works of abstract art lack aesthetic merit. A common argument against these artworks is that they lack skill. Artworks by Rembrandt and Gainsborough are unambiguously works of profound skill. These artists committed their lifetimes to their craft, and it shows in the virtuosity of their works. So again, read with me, students, and always ask yourself, what is this paragraph about? It is about the viewpoint that abstract art is worthless because it lacks skill and meaning. Okay? So that's your goal, to have that understanding. Yeah, Anahita says it's the negative perspective of abstract art. Very good, Anahita. Okay, let's keep going. So keep going with me this way. And if you are like Anahita, where you're like, okay, I know what this is about, tell me. Use the chat, okay? Include your answer in the chat. All right. D. It is important to note, however, that aesthetic merit must not be solely reserved for the sublime. In comparing Rembrandt to an abstract artist such as Pollock, one must realize there are many kinds of aesthetic merit. For example, there's the aesthetic merit in a sunset, in a beautiful sculpture, in a symphony, or even in a well-composed meal. So if aesthetic merit is represented in manifold ways, is it possible that abstract art satisfies at least one of those criteria? Many critics say yes. Okay, so what is this paragraph about? It is about the many forms of beauty, perhaps also including abstract art. I'm just looking at Moy Music Box says, that's a painful section of the exam. Don't look at it like that. Look at it like a challenging, instead of a painful or a stressful part of the exam. Look at it like a challenging part of the exam. The most beautiful parts of life are the most challenging parts of life. So, and same with an exam. When you figure out the most difficult questions and you get the correct answers, that's the best. Okay, so I'll leave the E, F, and G for you. You will notice that here now we're discussing the benefits of abstract art. Let's go to the questions. Let's see if we can figure these out now. Okay, so number 27, the rejection of old rules of art. So refusing the guidelines of traditional art. What paragraph gives me that information? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So remember, introduction tells us that there's two different ideas about abstract art or irrational art. And then the first couple paragraphs explain the negatives or the reasons why people don't like abstract art. And then the next paragraphs explain why abstract art could be beautiful. So many of you are saying B. And if we go back to B, remember the summary I wrote here? I said traditional art follows rules. Abstract art does not. So is it art? Yeah, so there was B. And why did you all get B correct? Well, because we summarized this, right? So B is the right answer, and you put B into your answer sheet and you get it correct. And you get this correct when you summarize the paragraphs. Now, this strategy or this technique of summarizing each paragraph with a simple sentence is so effective that I even recommend students to actually do it on the real exam, not just in your head, but you may actually want to do this on your note paper. Okay? Everybody following me? So I'm going to jump back here for this one because this is such an important strategy. Okay, so after you read a paragraph, summarize it with a simple sentence on paper or your note paper, even in the real exam. Okay? Because as long as you're doing it correctly or mostly correctly, like even if you're not 100% accurate, but you're 80% accurate, it's going to help you so much with those questions. Okay? Andrew says, what if I take the computer-based test? Andrew, you have a piece of paper for the computer-based test. Use that. Okay? So in the computer-based test, use the piece of paper they give you. Okay, they provide a piece of paper for you, so use that. Okay, Andrew? All right, you get a piece of paper. Okay. All right. So 27, B is the correct answer. Different kinds of aesthetic value. So different types of beauty. Okay, so various types of important beauty. That was the paraphrase here that we included last time. Which paragraph was that? See, many of you are like, D. Yeah, okay, let's go back and check. So D, it is about the many forms of beauty, perhaps also including abstract art. Right, because we said that there is beauty in a sunset, a beautiful sculpture, a symphony. So good. Many of you are paying attention. D is the correct answer. Absolutely. All right. Excellent. Nice. Nice work. Okay. 27. Two competing arguments about the value of abstract art. Everybody should get this, and it should be fast. So when you have the correct strategies, the benefit is you're getting the answers quickly, you're confident about your answers, and you're not stressing. Igrim says, that was A. Ate agrees. I agree. Why? Because I summarized that, right? So I said that at the beginning here. So remember, it tells that this essay will discuss both the positive and negative interpretation of abstract art. This essay will discuss both sides of the issue. Okay? So definitely A. Okay? It presents that, hey, this essay will talk about this and that. So 2 viewpoints. Good, good, good. So you see how this works? Number 30. Ambiguity itself provides part of the aesthetic experience. So uncertainty alone gives a piece of the perception of beauty. Which paragraph was that? Okay. A lot of you are saying C. Andrew Foxwell says G. Okay, here's my thinking. I think this is F or G because the support for abstract art comes mostly in the last third of the essay or the passage. Essay, passage, same thing. Okay, so I think it's F or G. So I'm going to check F or G, and I'm going to check for this word ambiguity, and I'm going to check for the word uncertainty or not knowing. Okay. All right, so perhaps the real answer to the debate is that whether an object has aesthetic merit or not is up to the viewer. May have it for one person, not the other person. Okay, not really that one. G, the answer, however, who desires a clear answer for such readers, it is important to point out that ambiguity is inherent in all art. In fact, ambiguity is part of the aesthetic experience itself. There's my answer right there. Okay. Now, some people, if you're like, well, I'm just going to skim read the passage. Well, yeah, but if you're trying to skim read for ambiguity from the beginning, you're going to skim read all of this before you eventually realize that, oh, ambiguity is there. I will find it way faster than you because I knew that I'm going to look at F and G. Okay, why? Well, it's because I have an understanding of the structure of the essay. Okay, so after reading this introductory paragraph, okay, here's the thesis statement. This article will discuss both sides of the issue and present arguments for and against the aesthetic merit of abstract art. Okay, that is the, let's do that one. That's the thesis statement. Okay, and I can see here that it will present arguments for, so arguments for and against the aesthetic merit of abstract art. So I know that this essay is organized. I mean, it should say against and for, but let's keep it the way it is, in such a way that it's one side then the other side. Now, here the thesis is a little bit backwards. It should be the other way, but if I keep reading, it does make sense because I see that paragraph B and C are against. Okay, so B and C are against. These two paragraphs are kind of telling me everything that is wrong with abstract art. D is where it starts to change. It's the turning point, okay? Like in a movie or in a story, you have a turning point. In an essay, you have a turning point, okay? And then here is where we have the support for abstract art. Okay, you can see it here. The value of abstract art lies in the mystery, right? Everybody sees that. So introduction, thesis, argument against abstract art, the turning point, the support for abstract art, conclusion, right? So this helps me to figure out where I should be looking for the answers, okay? So it helps me to figure out that for this one, I should be looking for the answer near the end, and I can figure it out much faster, okay? So if you are going to skim read, and there's a good chance that you will, I'm not saying that you will never skim read in the IELTS reading, okay? So for many of you who are watching this lesson, maybe you're like, is Adrian telling us never to skim read? No, I'm not telling you that. I'm just telling you to skim read or scan intelligently. Don't just randomly skim read through the passage, okay? Everybody got that? So here, 31. The mysterious nature of abstract art. We know it's coming after paragraph D, right? Because we just talked about it. It's the support for abstract art, right? So number 31, it's going to be E, F, or G, And the more you do this, the faster you will get. I think it's E. Topic sentence. Okay. Now, that's the other interesting piece here. So when you're looking at these pieces of information, you have to ask yourself, is this the topic, the explanation, or example? Okay. When you're looking at body paragraphs are organized according to topic, sentence, explanation, example. And so let me show you. Look at paragraph D here. It is important to note, however, that aesthetic merit must not be solely revealed or reserved for the sublime. Okay, so that's the topic. And then here it says, in comparing Rembrandt to an abstract artist such as Pollock, one must realize there are many kinds of aesthetic merit. Okay, so here is the explanation. Okay, and then here it says, for example. So here's the example. Okay, when you identify what part of information you're looking at in these questions, it becomes much faster to figure out where you should be looking for the correct answer. Is that clear, everybody? So here, with number 31, I can identify that this is the topic. Okay, so the mysterious nature of abstract art is the topic of a paragraph. So I'm looking at the start of the paragraphs. Okay, that can be, again, really helpful. So using good understanding of passages, essays, essay writing, and logic will really help you to do a lot better in the exam. So again, this is a very important tip, right? Okay. Aesthetic value is up to the viewer. Topic or explanation or example. What is it? Okay. So Akira says it's an explanation. I think it's a topic. Maybe an explanation. Okay. And the answer to this one is, I believe, F. Yeah. I even remember this topic, I think, but let's check it out. So all right. Perhaps the real answer to the debate is that whether an object has aesthetic merit or not is up to the viewer. Right? So it's a topic. Okay, topic sentence. F. Right? Okay. Let's keep going. Multiple choice. So multiple choice. Here's how you answer this. Okay. Let me do this in this way. What makes abstract art different from classical art? Your own answer first. So we read this. We talked about it. You should have the answer. The greatest trick to multiple choice questions is you need to answer on your own first. Okay? So okay, Raquea says abstract art does not follow rules. Akira says no rules. John Vincent Harrow says rules. Okay, good. Students, IELTS is a high school, college, university level exam. You will not have multiple choice questions, or you will not have many multiple choice questions that are like junior high school level. Okay? The big difference between junior high school level and college level, okay? Multiple choice, I'll spell it out here. Okay, that's the big difference, and you have to appreciate and you have to understand this for the IELTS exam. So in middle school, and I don't know why, but no teacher actually clearly says this. Sometimes when I say this to people, they're like, oh yeah, a lot of us just kind of figure this out on our own. When you're doing multiple choice in middle school and maybe in some high schools as well, you can kind of figure out the answer just by looking at the questions, by deduction. So you're like, oh, okay, that was the keyword. Okay, that answer just seems kind of crazy and wild. That's definitely the one clear answer. It's the champion, right? So in middle school, you have a clear champion. But in college, you have one that's better than the others, okay? So you have to pay attention to that. So that's why in the IELTS, middle school multiple choice question strategies don't work, okay? Or don't work effectively, not for many of the questions, right? So answer on your own first. So many of you said, what makes abstract art different from classical art? It does not follow the rules, the traditional rules of art. Right. So like shadows, shading, lines, and so on, right? Then match your answer with the correct answer. Okay. So here are choices. It is made after the late 19th century, which is true. It does not follow classical art rules. It follows a pattern of logic. It elicits pleasure from the viewer. What's the correct answer? This one, right? Because it matches my answer the closest. Okay. All right. Does that make sense? So number 34, a common critique of abstract art is that it lacks, in my opinion, lacks practice and skill, right? Remember it said in the passage, it's like, yeah, anybody can do abstract art. Absolutely. Now I match it, and I match it with D. Correct. 35. Why is it important to note that aesthetic merit not be solely reserved for the blind? Okay, so let me just, I'm covering up my screen, but okay, so give me the answer here for 35. Let me just keep training you on this, okay? I'm like, oh, don't look. So why is it important to note that like beauty is not just for the what we call the beautiful? Anybody? What's the answer to this? According to what we just read, according to what you understood, our discussion, why? So why not just why can't we just say, oh, that's the only beautiful painting in the world? Rockway says, because it is about the viewer's view. Okay, that's one answer. It's not my answer, but And you can have multiple answers. Because beauty is up to the viewer, sure. Okay. Okay, Akira says there are lots of types of beauty. Sure. Okay, now let's check it out. There is more than one kind of aesthetic merit. Aesthetic merit is reserved for experts. There is aesthetic merit in a sunset. Abstract art may have additional meanings. Harjat, Beza. Right? Yeah, and we're certain, so we're sure of A, but the only reason we're sure of A is because who was it? It was Andrew and Akira. Andrew says because beauty can be assessed by many different criteria, and Akira says there are lots of types of beauty. Yeah, and this one matches, correct? Okay. So A, we don't have beauty as in the eye of the beholder, Ate. It's not given as a choice. Okay, and then here we have, while realist works of art explicitly show their meaning, abstract works of art do what? Hide their meaning? Leave their meaning, write the mystery, leave their meaning up to the viewer to figure out. Okay. I'm not sure. Okay, so here we go. Let's take a look at it. So A, tell their meaning. B, hide the meaning from the artist. Disambiguate the meaning. Or D, obscure their meaning. Obscure their meaning. This one, you have to be careful. Hide the meaning. Until there, it's okay. But this part is a problem from the artist, right? It doesn't hide it from the artist. The artist knows what they're doing. Obscure also means to hide. Okay. So that one's D. Okay, true, false, not given. Here is the strategy for true, false, not given. Step 1. Figure out if it is given or not given by deciding whether the information is important for the passage. Okay, so this is how we do it. 37. Okay. Abstract artists always give their artworks meaning. Is it important? Yes. Very important. It's about abstract art. Okay. So it's given. Okay. Now, if we know that it's given, we go to step 2. Figure out if it is true or false according to the passage. Okay. Abstract artists always give their artwork a meaning. It's important, yes. It's given. Is it true or is it false in the passage? It doesn't say that it's true. It doesn't say that it's always given meaning. They don't always give meaning, right? It's false. Okay. Be very careful with superlatives like always give. There's a part in the passage that says without necessarily giving it any kind of clear meaning. Yeah, exactly, Andrew. Paragraph E says, clearly state that meaning isn't always there. So it's patently false. Okay. Number 38. An artwork's aesthetic value is ultimately up to the observer. Important? Yes, it's very important. So it's given. Okay. Is it true, according to the author, that an artwork's value is, at the end of the day, up to the person looking at the work of art? Absolutely. It's the conclusion. So it's true. Okay. A lack of clarity is present in all artworks. Important? Whether or not artwork has clarity? Yes, very important. There's a paragraph that talks all about it. Is it true? So it's given. Now we're just figuring out if it's true or not. So true or false? Okay. And the answer here is true. A lack of clarity is present in all artworks. If you're not sure, this is where we get into those more difficult questions, right? We're kind of near the conclusion here. All right. Let's see where it says that. There is a section in here where it says that all art has some ambiguity. Okay? So all art has some mystery. Here it is. Yeah, it was in the conclusion. For such readers, it is important to point out that ambiguity is inherent in all art. Okay, so it's paraphrased. It's a high difficulty question, but it's this part here, inherent. Okay, inherent means it's intrinsic. It's included in all art. So every piece of art. Okay. Anahita, you're right. If you're writing no or yes, you get it wrong. You have to write true or false. Okay. So according to the author, all art includes some form of mystery. Now, if you think about it, it does, right? So think about all of the art that you've seen. You can use your own information, your own life information for this as well. Any piece of artwork that you look at has a little bit of mystery to it. Some art seems very clear, right? Like, oh, it's a picture of a car. But it's still a little bit of a mystery. Like, is it a real car? Is it a modified car? Is it just a concept car? So there's always a little bit of mystery involved in every piece of art. Is this a photograph? Is this a painting? Every art, like there's no art where we're 100% sure we know exactly what's going on. Sometimes we're like 99.9, but there's always a little bit. What is that person thinking? What is that tree doing over there? Okay. So it's inherent in all art. All right. Number 40, last question. Artists often meditate upon the meaning of their artworks. Visualize it like, what's going on? Is it important? No. Right? The author doesn't talk about this. So it's not given, right? They don't always, what? Maybe they do. Maybe artists always meditate on, oh, what is this going to mean? You know what? I actually think that they probably do. But the artist doesn't, or sorry, the author is the artist, literary artist. The author does not talk about this, right? It's not important. Okay. Makes sense? Okay, everybody. So that was a tough reading. It's always a tough one, I know, especially because it's abstract. You can't touch it, right? It's abstract art. It's literally abstract. It's not physical. It's not like reading about trees or reading about fish or reading about furniture, something that you can touch. This is conceptual, right? It's in your mind. So it's more difficult, more challenging to understand. Make sure you practice this level of reading for the IELTS students. Don't be like, well, I'm not going to practice that because it's too difficult. And then you get one or two passages that are this difficult, and then you're just going like this. Why didn't I practice more difficult IELTS reading passages? Students, practice challenging IELTS reading passages. You can find these as passage 3 on our websites, okay? So students are often shocked when they get to their IELTS exam because they're studying from materials that are too easy. Careful not to fall into that trap. This is our academic IELTS website here at aehelp.com. Okay. Check it out when you have a minute. Sign up for the premium course. You've got so many goodies there. So click the Join Now button. Okay. And then you're off to the races. It's a one-time payment, lifetime access. Students, tomorrow, this is the general IELTS for general IELTS reading, gieltshelp.com. Again, click that red button. We work with IDP, with British Council. We know what we're doing. We train thousands of students every day for the IELTS. So you're in great hands with us. Students, tomorrow we have lots of speaking coming up. So I'm going to figure out the speaking on the website here in just a moment. What I'm going to do in just a second here is I'm going to do a hard reboot, and then I'm going to hop into the chat interface on the website and see if that fixes the microphone issue on my end. So if you want to hang around, and I'll reach out to a couple of students there. Students, that was it for this reading class. Again, tomorrow, speaking part 2, speaking part 3. I'll make sure that I can hear you and everything's working great for us. So check it out, aehelp.com for academic IELTS, gieltshelp.com for general. Thank you, Carolina. Thank you, Sarah, so much for moderating and answering lots of questions. I saw that there were tons of questions coming at you in the class. Have a lovely rest of your Friday. Have a great start to your Saturday, everyone. Hopefully, I will see you tomorrow, and where we will practice speaking part 2 cue card and speaking part 3 follow-up questions. Bye for now, everyone.